Hello and welcome back to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me. It's great to have you with me for review number 171 and the start of another series, a series that I enjoy doing because, well, what is it? It's another series of what I call the Baker's Dozen. If you're new to my channel, what is the Baker's Dozen? Well, it's where I look at 13 Baker's Dozen, 13 12-year-old single malt scotches. This is the third time I've done a series of these. And let me tell you, there's plenty more out there yet. I love doing them because there's some great 12-year-olds. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some of them aren't so great. And there'll be some in this series, the same as there's been in the last two series of Baker's Dozen, that aren't so great. But just 12 years is a bit of a sweet spot for me. Why? Because it's generally affordable. Generally, they still, in most cases anyway, I've found distillers will still put a bit of effort in at 12 years. 12 years is a long wait if you own a distillery. So it's just one of those things that I think 12 years, some of them are real crackers because of the bang for the buck scenario. What do you get for your money? What I'm on here? Well, Aberlour Speyside whiskey. This one, the 12-year-old non-chill filtered. Now, if you're fairly new to whiskey, you'll probably have come across Aberlour 12-year-old, but what you will have come across more than likely, and I actually have another bottle and I meant to bring it here for this purpose, is the standard, what way we would describe it, supermarket Aberlour 12-year-old. A few years back, Aberlour were doing a 10-year-old, and it was class in my opinion for what it was and the price, etc, etc. They then took it off the market and went down the path of the 12-year-old, and the 12-year-old that they're doing is bottled at 40%, chill filtered, colour added, etc, etc. So it pretty much took over from the 10-year-old. This one is a bit of a, I was going to say a bit of a rarity. It's getting harder to get, the 12-year-old non-chill filtered edition. This, I think, now, I could be wrong, but I think this was originally released as a travel exclusive. So, airports. And I managed to pick this one up from a European site. It is still about there if you look for it. I noticed just whenever I was doing my research for this that you can still pick it up at the Whiskey Exchange. But there are very, very few places doing it now. 12-year-old non-chill filtered. Bottled at 48%, non-chill filtered. I think there's probably colour added to it. A touch of colour. Maybe not an awful lot, but I do think there's colour added. So, Aberlour, I've always, as I said before, Speyside Distillery, owned by the Chivas brothers there, so Pernod Ricard. Good stuff. When done right, once again. Weirdly, the 10-year-old loved it. That 12-year-old, no. The standard 12-year-old does not do it for me. Falls very, very short of the mark, in my opinion. Then you get up into the Abunas, but then the price shoots away up. So let's get back into where we're at now. Aberlour, 12-year-old, non-chill filtered edition. Here we go. A good, old-fashioned, sherry-influenced Speyside Scotch whiskey. That's that. Okay. That would really wrap it up, wouldn't it? That's what I love about it. I do love, I've said before, many's a time, that Speyside to me has a floral sweet fruit note, which is pretty much technically sort of wraps Speyside up. That's not to say that it's just this generic note that says I'm Speyside. And Aberlour, and there's a few others, don't get me wrong, who tend to use sherry maturation an awful lot, then take that and you can still get that floral fruity thing going on in here, but it's just what they are doing with their sherry maturation. That floral, fresh fruit, oranges is all there. Apricot, marmalade, orange peel, and then it starts to give way to the dried fruit notes. When I say dried fruit, raisins, mixed peel. And there's that, yeah, I said a while ago, marmalade, dried apricot, very much so. there's a slight weird dry honey note and barley sugar. What's not to like? It is good. It is good in the nose, this. It's a bright, sweet and sour delivery. Coats well. And delivers well on that 48%. This is good. This is the right stuff. We'll get the price later. There's a lovely balanced oak spiciness. And it's one of those, makes it a very Moorish thing. All that orange, apricot, dried fruit, raisin, fruitcake. The fruit cakiness, the sherry element of this that we would tend to generally relate to fruitcake isn't overpowering. It's not a sherry bomb by any means. It's just a very good balance. It balances very well with the freshness of it. So when I talked earlier about if Speyside is a generic thing, well then floral, fruity. When I say it like that, it maybe sounds like I'm being a bit harsh on them. I don't mean it like that. I like that stuff. But it just balances well. The fresh fruit and very, very orange, apricot, that sort of thing. Honey notes, they're all in there. They're still in the palate that were in the nose. And it almost feels like there's I would say if I was drinking this blind, I would have suggested there was a wine finish on it. Because it does lead out to a nice dry finish, which is quite long, sweet and wine-like. Some very much dried red fruit would make me think that there's a wine finish in this. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice, all very nice. Let's add a drop of water. Not too much, that was about 5 drops. It's not a big lot. Give it time to settle, obviously. Much more fruity. Dried Morello cherries. Or when I say dried, you can glacé cherries. And there's a sharp, I said earlier about orange and even citrus. Now there's a sharp tang like love heart candies off it. Now, because the water has softened it, it's now that the sherry influence starts to come back. It's taken a lot of the sharp tanginess that was there, which I quite liked. It's mellowed it out and brought up the sherry notes, the dried fruits, the fruit cake. Because, and I think it's just because of the softness on the palate. Still a very, very good example of sherry matured Speyside whiskey, and a very good example of an Aberlour. I mentioned a moment ago, we'll get the price, 50 to 60 pounds when you can get it. Now that's starts to push limits on 12-year-old scotches, 60 pounds in particular, but I think that's worth it here. They sort of put it in an areole that's a one where it's slightly rare and it is harder to get, and it's just going to get harder to get. I don't know whether Aberlour is still putting this out. Maybe somebody can let me know. But I think it's a very good one. It's a very good one. I would prefer this over the likes of the 14 or the Cascanam or something like that. You know, it's got that good Aberlour feel about it. And I would love to see, I know an awful lot of distilleries do this, where they have a version and a travel exclusive version of the same whiskey technically. Bushmills did one with their 10-year-old, so they've a travel exclusive 10-year-old. Oh, I had loads in my head a moment ago. And it sort of breaks my heart, because I look at it and go, I just want it released in this version. I mean, like what I'm talking about here, this non-chill version of this Aberlour, that's the way I would love their 12-year-old to be released all the time. Do away with that supermarket version. It's dreadful in comparison to this. The way this is, yes, as I said earlier, there might be a drop of colour added, but it's far, far better in my opinion. So look, we'll just leave it there. We'll move on. Yeah, much better. Presentation, much better. I do so wish Aberlour would release their 12-year-old like this all the time. Highly unlikely. So what would I recommend? I do like this, I do. If this is your thing, you've got this. It's hard to know, because the way I look at it is, if you are one of those people who has went to the effort to get your hands on a bottle of Aberlour 12-year-old non-chill filtered, you're probably already well into your whiskey. You're probably already quite a bit down your journey. So it's going to be very difficult for me to recommend anything to you that you haven't already had. So I'm just going to aim this a bit wildly and start around a bit general, and just say, get more sherry in your life. Get yourselves a bottle of Arran Sherry Bodega. I may have been a bit scathing about this one whenever, I wasn't overly scathing about it whenever I reviewed it. I just, anybody who knows me and knows me well enough now knows that I and Arran have a bit of a checkered past. So some of their stuff blows my mind, some of it doesn't. This was one that sort of sat somewhere in between that, I think. But I literally just went, right, I honestly did. I'm holding my hand up here and saying, let's get a good representative for sherry cask whiskey, to offer you up as an alternative to the Aberlour 12-year-old non-chill filtered. So I went, there's a good one. And it wasn't just sitting in front of my cabinet, so I had to go looking. So, you know, definitely, Arran, even maybe the likes of some of the Glendronachs would be a good one as well here. Glendronach 12, even the 8 Highland, which is also getting a little hard to get. But enough said. Aberlour 12-year-old non-chill filtered, if you like it. If you haven't had so, get yourself a bottle of the Arran Sherry Bodega. This is getting better. Starting to get chocolate notes as well. This was recommended to me by someone. It was one of the guys in the whiskey community. It'll come to me probably after I've finished filming this. And he, at the time, I can't remember, it was whenever I reviewed the Aberlour 12 or I'd reviewed something, and he said to me, you should try the Aberlour 12 non-chill filtered. And I managed, at that time, that was whenever I got the bottle, and he was right. He was 100% right. It's just good stuff. It's just good stuff. Please, Aberlour, if you ever feel like doing the right thing, start releasing this as your standard 12-year-old. Please. There you go. I'll leave it at that. And I'm glad, it's great to be back into this series. I really, this is when I'm doing series, when I'm grouping them together, this one is always my favourite. I don't know why. There's so many great 12-year-olds out there, as I said earlier, and I just love gathering them up, getting them together. Ones that I've already got in the cabinets, or I'm actually going out and buying ones that have been recommended to me to add in there. So great stuff to come in this series. Some great, some not so great. Until the next time, thank you very much for joining me, as usual. Thank you very, very much to my patrons. Should anyone wish to join that group, the details are in the video description below. Till the next time, my friends, great to be back with you. Here's to your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.